Oh, okay.
Everybody eyes,
Y'all get the
hearts are all clear.
Do you know if they must that money go there?
Yeah. Staff. Very little program. Staff. It's like the police department, same thing, staff.
I just got something from YouTube to watch the Winterville Town people.
Well, you
I just got something on YouTube to watch the Winterville Town budget. And
Phone just went dead. Phone just went dead.
oh my gracious.
Oh, yeah, his battery.
all the miss your book up.
Supposed to be a thing, but you're not.
Good evening to everyone. I'd like to call the Winterville Town Council Budget Workshop, session number 2, back into order. If I could get a motion, I appreciate it.
I make a motion.
All right, got a motion made by Councilman Johnny Moore, second by Councilman Paul Rice to resume the meeting. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Madam
Yes,
Manager?
I have a couple of housekeeping items before the food is blessed and we eat dinner. if that's
Okay, yes, ma'am.
So at your seats, you have a replacement budget message that goes behind tab number 1. You have a replacement set of revenues that goes behind tab number 3. You have a replacement set of, I call it expenditures, the system calls them appropriations, but that goes behind tab number 4. You have a replacement cover page and outline of the non-town agency requests that were approved Tuesday night. That goes behind tab 9, and it replaces the first 2 pages of the last item in the appendix, which is your non-town agency funding requests. Does that make sense?
So, the
So again, budget message, the letter goes behind 1,
Just the letter.
just the letter behind 1. The revenues, which would be the first set of financial pages, there are 10 of those, 10 pages, go behind tab 3.
Great.
The set of, I call them expenditures, but the system calls them appropriations. I believe there are 20-some pages. I did take out most of the unnecessary pages.
What's this, 43?
43? Okay, excellent. It's even better than I thought I did.
Tab 4.
That goes behind tab 4. And the cover page, which says 2023-24 non-town agency, and the table behind it, they're the first 2 pages of the last item behind tab 9 of the appendix. That's the appendix. Yes. Anybody need any help?
I do mine while y'all eat.
And one other quick item of business is you have a revised mural design at your seats provided by Ms. Lee Moore. I believe after further discussion, Stephen, hop in if I misspeak. After further discussion with the district manager of the Winterville Dollar General and corporate offices, a couple of additional changes were made. And so I believe this is now the new mural design that will be put on the building, assuming that Dollar General approves it. And I just wanted to make you aware that it is going to be a little different and have you have a copy of that.
Okay. All right.
And I think that is it.
Thank you.
We got questions about what we do.
I'm sorry?
We have questions about this.
We discuss it now.
I can try to answer them, or we'll make sure Ms. Moore gets them.
Right.
Stephen can hopefully help me.
Yeah, if you have any questions, yeah, we can take them now, and Stephen can write them down, And that way he can get with Ms. Ludi.
If we don't know the answer,
Right,
we
if
will
we
ask
don't have
him.
the answers. That's why I was saying we can do it now, if you have.
We are one mic short also this evening, so ladies, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah, if you have any questions.
You know, Malcolm said,
I'm sorry?
they took off the word scope.
Yes, ma'am, I believe the tobacco leaf
And I was excited about it because here in Winterville, we got that divide, and, we don't talk about it, but there is. And lots of times I hear people that look like me feeling left out of things. And I was really happy that this mural would have something that represented something in the African American community. Because historically, we've been here. My grandfather was here in the 1860s. So,
and this would be the, hold on, let me take a look.
I noticed that it changed like the theme and most of the buildings, which is, I don't have a problem with that, but I just wondered why.
That was the A.G. Fox School, right?
I'm looking at
Robinson.
School, sorry, okay. Stephen, I don't know if you have any insight as to
I don't, but
why
I
that
do
was
know
Robinson.
she's waiting on. Dollar General's corporate to or deny.
I would like to see something that represented something of, within the African American community up here. If it is old church, Mason Hall, just something that would, show the viewpoint of the history of the community.
I think, I want to be straightforward, but say what I think I know to be the case. I'm not sure if the district manager, who they've given some corporate offices given some leeway,
I don't believe it was a district manager, I believe it was an assistant.
some manager
It wasn't.
affiliated.
I
I don't know much about it.
there was, the district office approved it. One of the managers didn't, after seeing it, didn't approve it, and was a little bit upset about some of the stuff that was in it.
And then
So-
I think Dollar General said you can't put it up there.
Right,
So then I think you had to remove some of the
Right.
items. that
Some of the
they didn't
items.
want
Right.
and replace it.
right.
I was going to say, I just don't know anything about the person.
That's why it
who-
was discussed. That's why I just come back to it.
Why that person would buy.
Yeah, today was the first.
Because I noticed that, these are buildings here.
Right.
And I noticed the Huntsville, that's not the house. Kind of look like Huntsville. Because before there was like the planner and things like
I
that.
think the first thing that was removed was the pig, I think everybody was in agreement. And then I believe the cotton planter was removed. Again, that came as a source of bother for one of the managers affiliated with the Winterville School. And then I believe the tobacco leaf and the school was removed in a second review. And that's where we are. But I don't know any reasons, and I don't know anything about the person, whether that person's from here, familiar with.
Faculty, that basically is your
Yeah, I don't know. I assume Dollar General probably just to make sure if anything's controversial, probably not. You know what I mean?
Mayor, I don't know if you have any insight.
I don't have any insight, no more than what I was told. So
Well,
I think y'all
we
nailed
can
it.
pass it along back to Ms. Moore.
Right.
Does the council object to this moving forward in its current fashion?
Well, the bike was wonderful. It was shell kit put there in the 60s in this picture. That needs to be taken off. Yeah, I was just, the snow came along and got rid of it, the shelter. Is that where it's going to go?
This right here.
That's the sixties shelter.
So you're saying the bank of what now?
Winterville.
It shouldn't be up here?
No. The owners, the sixties owners.
So in other words, the 1906
Oh,
version,
oh,
I would definitely. point
It's
that.
the only bank that did not crash Pitt County in the Depression. Of course, one house in here stole 64 farms during the Depression. I won't say which one. That's why when part of the family didn't want their name put on it for years.
okay.
Well, I have the actual comment about the bank and the concerns about the school and the tobacco leaf being taken off. Is that
Well,
inaccurate?
I guess, I'm not complaining about tobacco leaf.
Okay.
All the,
The school should be on
things
there.
that go along with tobacco, you know, in now in the nation. We don't want to promote the use of it. Maybe that's why. But I do want to see something that represents the community that I'm from, which is the African American community in Nashville. Not that all the other things up here are good historic things. I don't have any problem with any of them. I just don't like the idea that, I like the idea that we were being inclusive, you know, by representing us up here doing something.
And we'll mention the removal of W.H. Robinson and the bank feature.
And I don't know, maybe they removed it, I know it was one of the colored schools at that time, but that was the language for that time. So I don't have a problem with them, you know, calling it the colored school because it's what it was called.
And Mr. Cox owned the land, purchased the land for the school.
Yeah.
He was a fair man.
And I thought it was really good that school was over there in Cox, you know, what we call A.G. Cox, but one of our high school was right across in front, which shows the evenness, you know, and the generosity of Mr. Cox.
Yes.
One of the things that brought up, that I'm aware of, is they were not benefited by cotton, but what was in reference there was the tool that was made to
Planner.
Right.
He's known for that.
take care of the cotton, make it easier. And that brought the railroad, part of the railroad here and all that. It wasn't about people doing it.
Right.
Well, that's why,
Even if it had been, it would have been true to the time.
right,
It would have been true to the time that we were living in.
historically accurate.
You know, so I don't have a problem with it being accurate to the time, you know, doing what was done during that time. But I just don't see any representation from that side.
I took it understand.
Okay.
Both races went to Reedy Branch. Sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
both.
don't know that. But even with that, you know,
Okay,
We will get those comments.
yes,
back.
please,
Yeah,
let's get these comments taken care of. Johnny, if you will leave us and blessing this food, and after we have the blessing, we're going to take a 30-minute recess,
thank you.
okay? And we'll resume after we come back. Johnny?
Our dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to come out here and represent our wonderful town that you allow us to represent. We thank you so much for this food that we're about to receive, for the nourishment of our body. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We're going to resume this meeting, but before we resume, I'd like to thank Marabello's for our meal on Tuesday night at Meeting Grounds for tonight's meal, and also thank the town of Winterville for picking it up for us and taking care of us. But both of these establishments are restaurants right here in the town of Winterville. And so if you could stop by and see them and partake in a good meal. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and Terry, you can have the floor now.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, it feels like we just left each other, but we do welcome Councilwoman Harrell with us this evening. Again, let me apologize in advance for a few things. First of all, I'm wearing part of my lunch on my shirt, so if you see that, just ignore it. Secondly, we have been working on budget, trying to get it where we wanted it to be, to present to you tonight, up until about 4:45. So if my budget message includes typos, I apologize in advance, or anything small is out of kilter. We've been tearing up some trees and getting things hopefully where they need to be. So we will fix those small things. But thank you for your patience and understanding. We are pleased tonight to present to you a balanced budget. The only way that we could have done that is with the help and hard work of staff. And staff did a great job, as they always do, though there are probably not some very happy folks this evening, of putting some cuts on the table that they felt that they could live with, and also making some adjustments in how some of our funds utilize some of its fund balance appropriations. So we'll go through some of the summaries in the budget message, the amended budget message that you have. But just so you know, Tuesday night we were out of balance about $3,800,000, $3.9 million, and this evening across all funds the budget is balanced. So I'm going to be working from the budget message, which is behind tab 1. So if you'll just follow with me, I'll try to go over the changes. No real changes in the where it says the recommended draft budget includes that bulleted list. There are not really any changes. However, some of the specifics that we addressed Tuesday night are included here. So if we want to flip over to page 2 of that draft budget message, total general fund budget is now currently total $13,598,069. There is a general fund balance appropriation of $612,972. We did not have that allocated Tuesday night. And again, I'll reference the electric fund transfer of $650,000. If we go a little bit further down the page, the next bulleted list includes the approved non-town agency allocations that you all addressed Tuesday night. And so the actual allocations that you all approved for 23-24 equal $100,000 even. Those are outlined as you see there. And then we have added the in-kind services for senior citizens, Winterville Senior Citizens Club. But you see those numbers for the in-kind services, and what we mean by that are the services that we provide that does not relate to actual cash, an outlay of cash to these non-town agencies. And Councilwoman Harrell, if any of this prompts a question, just let me know. I'd be glad to cover it. The approved amount for Shepherd Memorial Library, which again, the reason that we separate that out from other agencies is because we consider that a quasi-governmental function, is $171,768. We want you to denote that any, what I will call, quote, big ticket capital requests, that would be larger pieces of equipment, etc. We plan to finance those. And Anthony, jump in if I miss something, please. Therefore, as you've seen it.
Okay, my question, is there any that we know of that's coming up that we will be financing? I'm just asking that question.
Checking out what equipment?
Equipment, right, uh-huh.
Yes, we have enough, several equipment.
Public Works has another boom truck and a pickup truck. This plumber we have two
There's what, about 7 pieces?
In the police
Potential,
department.
wait, I'm sorry, so 7 pieces of potential equipment that we will actually. Okay.
But normally we do the police department 4 car you're having in the past.
So we have gotten off our replacement schedule, so, we have done as many as 4, but we're sticking to 2 this year, but they desperately are needed, because one of those vehicles is right at almost 150,000 miles.
Yes.
And so they're hard, a lot of times, hard miles in a short
Right.
geographical area. But remember now, for financing, in the first year, you see what I'll call the wash. You see what we call debt service proceeds that equal the same amount we pay out for the equipment. So the money we borrow comes in as debt proceeds, and we turn around when that equipment is purchased, we pay for it outright. It'll be the 24-25 year that you actually see the first debt service payment on the loan for the equipment.
Ms. Harrell, did you get that? Okay, all right.
So,
I just wanted to make sure that you kind of, first time through, make sure that you know.
What's the interest rate?
I don't know what conventional interest rates are, Anthony. I don't know if you or Jessica.
The governmental rates are always lower than the county market rates.
What was that? 3 years ago, we saved so much money in reducing our interest rates big time and saved millions of dollars. Southern Bank was very competitive back then, and they saved us a lot of money.
Go ahead. Go ahead, John, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to, no, mine is entirely different.
Well, my question also going to the equipment is, hopefully none of this stuff is going to be back ordered, like everything. I mean, I said hopefully.
We hope.
We hope, right.
But again, we're still waiting on some vehicles that we ordered a year
Right,
ago.
that's the-
So we haven't yet received. Again, we know that this challenge with equipment, supplies that we have to have is going to continue, the challenges related to that, so. But we're hoping to improve.
Yes, the question that I have, and the question that was asked to me, was about the Watermelon Festival. And the answer that I gave them, they was speaking of the incline cost for the Watermelon Festival. And I was given the answer that it's hard to determine year by year the cost it takes for incline service for the Watermelon Festival. So I said, well, maybe that we can get an average, approximately average in the past what we've been, what it costs the town for incline service for the Watermelon Festival.
We actually have a line item, and it's in, I believe, non-departmental, which is to go behind tab 4, will be on page 21 of 43. And you will see it is line item, let me know when everybody gets to page 21 of 43 behind tab 4.
21 and 43.
Everybody there?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so if you go down on the list, look at under appropriations, the account numbers. If you'll go the last 45102, you'll see Watermelon Festival town expense, $11,000. We try to keep the cost of anything that we do related to the Watermelon Festival within that line item amount. And I'm looking at,
The only thing that doesn't go in
Man hours?
is anything we purchase associated with it. Traffic man hours.
but I would say that it's a substantial contribution
It is.
in addition to the 50,000. I would say that they easily get 75,000 or more dollars from us annually by the time you take the non-cash contribution that town, because I mean, we don't include the administrative cost and the cost of the folks that are actually working it, but then again, add that to the 50,000. They're getting quite a contribution from the town of Winterville.
Close to what, 150, 200?
I would say, if you think 100,000 is a,
Because you're talking right now, you're talking
Or
about
more.
62.
Several years ago, the problem is, practically several years. But in more recent times, because of, things, all the costs that are out there,
so I
25,000.
think with 125 total maybe would be a good number, but substantial and no bigger than we are, definitely. And again, that probably doesn't include any of the other time.
And then basically, those prices, all of that. In essence, I don't see us doing without
You can.
our, as far as that money. The only money that I could see that could change would be our contribution, as far as financial contribution, as far as, the police, the electric, the public works and all that. We couldn't have a safe festival without all that work going into it.
No way.
And
I know our
honestly,
staff does a good job with it.
Excellent.
excellent job, and I don't honestly think, I know we hope that they'll be self-sufficient one day. I think the realistic likelihood is that it's going to be difficult for them to be self-sufficient without a change in sort of historically what they've done, and everybody seems to enjoy the way it's, held currently, so, and they work hard and volunteers. So when I say it's a substantial contribution, I'm certainly not being negative in that.
Right.
No,
It's
that was a
financially
question,
and
yes.
From a time perspective, it is for that weekend.
So do you think that,
And yeah, I'm surprised almost that it's not more.
so do you think that it need to be listed on in the list that we have on page 2 with incline, even though that we can give an estimate of cost? Because what we're doing, we're leaving it out on the list unless we go back here where you said that where we could find it, where I can find it, let not say we, where I can find it.
I think maybe we would need to shore up that number a little more than what we're guesstimating here tonight, but we could certainly do that in the future, try to track it and see, come to a closer amount to be able to include in future budget.
And then what we spend this year, we can place it on for next year's
Yeah,
budget
we can
as
start
it inclines,
another
and we can
track.
start it then.
So going back to the budget message, I think we're on page 2. So in working in our budget today, with some changes that Recreation made to their budget, we were able to reduce the transfer from general fund to $989,501 for an adjusted total budget for Parks and Rec in the amount of $1,167,250. In Powellville Fund, that was slightly out of balance on Tuesday evening. Slight adjustments were made, and the total for that estimate, and again, Powellville is state received monies for the maintenance and repair of our town roads. It's been called that ever since I've been working, but a lot of times people will not necessarily know Powell doesn't necessarily tell folks who aren't familiar with what it is. So again, it's for road maintenance and repair. Flip over to page 3. We have included the urgent repair fund, and we had some monies, as you all know, that we have built up in the fund itself during the years of the pandemic that we performed urgent repair work. So instead of allocating 20,000 out of the general fund coffers this year, we took 20,000 and allocated it out of the reserves in that fund. So that's where that 20,000 came from. Moving into our enterprise funds, which are our utility funds, but they operate as businesses within themselves. The electric fund, you know, we had a pretty wide deficit in that fund as of Tuesday night. I'll remind everyone again, there's a straight out transfer of $650,000 to the general fund. That did not change from the current budget year. That's done annually to assist in covering the cost of operations. Now, that is not the same as the contribution for services line item that you will see in each of these funds back to the general fund. That transfer for the contribution of services is to pay back the general fund for administration. Anything like that, we feel free to jump in, but it's where those funds pay back the general fund for the cost of billing and customer service and all of the things that happen on the general fund side. Thank you. That's all wrapped up in that, but this 650 is a straight out transfer, more general in nature. Obviously, we have rapidly grown, even though we have we don't know what's going to happen in the near future in terms of the national economy, even the global economy, but we hope that our expansion continues, anticipate that it will. Therefore, there's some big work coming down the pipe in terms of Old Tar Road expansion and the utility relocation associated with that, et cetera. Therefore, the total electric fund budget is $9,147,905. We did use a contribution, a pretty large one again for the second year from fund balance. And I use that term in quotations because it's not necessarily called fund balance in the enterprise funds, but just so everybody sort of equates what we're talking about. There's a contribution from fund balance to help balance this fund in the amount for this year of $1,343,905. So that, there's some big costs associated with that fund, and we've got some big work coming.
That contribution came from the electric fund, right?
$1 million, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Bless you.
So this electric fund budget doesn't really address what we've gone through in the past, the ups and downs of the money. So, when we go and make sure recognize the right now, right, so depending on what happens in fall next year, we could be back in this, on the radar for everybody. Make sure that there's some flexibility with that. Forward curve and Robert Street, it's looking good for as far as natural gas.
Well, I think that's important because, as we talked about previously, and probably we'll have to get into more detail in future months, but this is going to be a consistent process where we're having to review the state of affairs with respect to power costs and how we need to address that. And I know that's difficult for you all to have to know that we're grappling with that more often, but I just think it's the way it's got to be.
But as the council should understand, eventually, we're going to have to look at possibly raising some type of rates eventually to keep up with the norm.
We're going to have some rate adjustments that will be made on some of these funds.
Yeah. So to the council, keep that in mind, that it's going to happen in order, because we can't keep going down this same path.
No, we can't use
Right.
over $1 million balance
Right.
every year.
Exactly. So, and I'm just trying to soften the blow that you know that it's eventually it's going to happen.
Well, we're having internal discussions, and I think a lot of conversation will be had over the coming months about a phased plan for an approach to how we make some of these, how we propose some of these increases, and to what areas those increases need to happen first, and then for how long. We talked about solid waste too tonight. I know Anthony and Jessica were looking at what the contractual price for just GFL1 will be per customer, and I believe that the anticipated increase that will come to the contracts this year, the cost for us, GFL, per customer per month will actually be more than what we are collecting from each customer. We collect $11.50. Are you ready? Yeah, right.
So you have, currently, we're starting 11.50, current cost per container. We'll roll out some things, off the wood, going out in this state, all of my costs. And, so that's going to put us losing $1.45 per customer for each service. That over the course of the year, $71,000.
And again, that doesn't take into no way, no account the routes that we run internally of town. The contract, absolutely. And in the hurriedness of trying to balance the budget, we weren't able to get together and chat about special pickup and a number associated with that. So we'll continue to work towards that, and then hopefully maybe by the time it comes to adopt the budget, we will have that, and even maybe we'll have it to present to you if we can during the public hearing.
It's a fund balance in that.
Section 9. As of June 30th, 2022, it's $725,000. We appropriated $3.5 million this year. So, that leaves available for appropriation $426,000. So this budget is
1.30.
1.3 of that. So it's down to $8 million. Now, there's some to go back in and close this year. That's a level number. How fast it's from.
And again, you all have that schedule. It's behind tab 9, and I believe it's the 5th document. And if I remember that correctly, behind tab. And you should have a revised schedule that says revised from the one that went out in your book initially. Okay. So again, we're not trying to use scare tactics. We talk about this every year, but I can't stress enough, and we'll get into the end of the message here shortly about some of the things we're trying to impart upon the group. Let's move on to water. The total budget for water is now at $2,056,044. There is a contribution from quote-unquote fund balance included in the amount of $321,011. Again, $475 has been budgeted to buy water from Greenville Utilities, which we are required to do in order to meet our water needs, and also the reductions that we have mandated on our aquifers. Just like we talked about general fund, any quote-unquote big ticket capital request will be financed. So again, you see debt proceeds in and then payment out. Also, the water fund, bear with me, the water fund is loaning the sewer fund $260,000 for this year, this coming year. And that is in part to help balance the sewer fund and cover the increase in the contribution the town has to make to CMSD, which, as you all will recall, that went up about over $300,000. So The water fund is going, because that's in a better financial position from a fund balance standpoint, the water fund is going to loan the sewer fund $260,000. And I'll get into the repayment terms, now that we're going to talk about the sewer fund. The sewer fund total is estimated to be $3,067,187. Again, you're a member of CMSD, the Kentucky Metropolitan Sewerage District, and as such, that's where the treatment portion of our sewer system takes place in Grifton. The plant's located there. Everybody pays, the three entities, well, actually four if you include some of the CMSD's direct customers. We all pay based on the flow we send to the plant. And what happens is the previous 12 months' flow is considered in terms of how the percentages are calculated. You all may remember Tuesday night we talked about Winterville's part increased substantially because last year was a drier year. This is a more accurate picture of the flow that Winterville sends and the associated percentage. We're bigger, we have more houses, we send more flow. The year before was a wet year. Aiden's percentage almost was exactly the same, if not a little bit more than Winterville's percentage. And you may go, that's weird, why is that? Again, it has to do with Aiden's has a lot of infiltration inflow, a lot of rainwater coming into their system. And so they're sending that in addition to their sewer flow to the plant to be treated. That's why you're seeing the fluctuation in the way the percentages go. If everybody's system, and we have infiltration inflow too, everybody has to keep control of it. It's hard to manage, and you have to do it forever. It's nothing that you can ever really not try to address. But that's why you're seeing the fluctuations. If everybody's system was tight, then this would be a more regular number in the 1.4 million area.
So for 37, 38 years,
Yes.
they charged us more for our growth.
Yes.
Right.
So we have said, and fought hard to see the flow-based formula come, we have argued that we paid a lot of, or a great portion of Aiden's costs for many, many years. So
78 started, we put together. Our plant was in good shape in 78. We didn't pay for it until 1997. Still closing down. I can't tell you the reason why. I can't tell.
well, I think that
Bad mistake. We've done a great job.
it is definitely a better system for us currently. Staff does a great job on our collection system, trying to keep things tight inside and make sure we're addressing our system with projects to make sure that we keep up with our maintenance, and that's just going to be an expensive endeavor as we move forward. I'll get back to this loan that the water fund's making to sewer. The payback arrangement that the finance put together, Anthony spearheaded with that, the sewer fund would pay back the water fund over a 5-year term, $52,000 annually, in order to basically pay that loan off. Okay, we're moving to stormwater fund. That's pretty straightforward. That total for the stormwater fund, or the anticipated total, is $606,180. I do want to talk just really briefly about staff's conclusion. And I use the term urge. And I put it in bold this year, and I think we all collectively come to you. Urging council to consider looking with us at our rate structures and making upward adjustments in some of these in a well-planned, phased manner, so that citizens aren't obviously being hit all at one time. Staff knows that we want to get together, do some work, and then bring that back to council, so you've got something to work with. Looking over to the very last page, page 4. I do include some strong verbiage. This is not new to those of you who've been with me now for almost 14 years. It's hard to believe it's been that long. We're having fun. As the town continues to grow, obviously there's already huge pressure on our staff. We're a small staff, comparatively speaking. I mean, there are much smaller towns that have more employees than we do, and that doesn't, it's not lost on us as management. We know that the pressure will continue to increase as the geographical area increases, and we just got to talk about what we're going to do, because we can't stay on the same path. We just can't maintain same level of service, same number of employees, et cetera. We're in a great financial position, and I know you all want us to stay that way. Well, the only way that's going to happen is to have these hard conversations where revenues are concerned and how we're going to cover in the future the ever-increasing cost of doing business. We feel like we would be remiss, and you've heard me say this before, if we did not continue to urge council to work with us to change our financial direction moving forward. Growth is great, and we've got to have it in order to make it affordable to live here. But unfortunately, the cost of that growth comes prior to the revenue that's realized from the growth. So we have to expend this money oftentimes with a lag of, if you were to say, 2 years, sometimes more, for that revenue to be realized from that growth. And we're going to have to, as a result, take a really hard look of whether we're going to expand our workforce, adjust our services, some of those, and how do we maintain the quality of life we all enjoy here in Winterville, but continue to do it at a financially in a financially sound way. That wasn't a lecture. It was just an opportunity to say, we've been talking about it, and I really think we're at that precipice where we need to really have some detailed, hard conversation. So with that said, that's my spiel for tonight.
A question that that rings in my mind is, if we hire more staff compared to what we have, now we try to, let me say, I try to award our staff because of what I see and what is provided for me personally by me being a taxpayer. And it's quality, A1, top.
Some of the best you'll get out there.
Okay, compared to go out and hire more staff, will it balance itself out if you do that? If you understand what I'm saying, do we continue on awarding our staff more awards, or do we need to balance this out by hiring more staff to even this cycle completely
We'll
out?
have to hire more staff. There's no way current staff and the numbers we have that cannot cover the expanding area. We're already at a point where the routes and public works, I mean, those almost take the entire week, and we're not able to get around to the other things like sinkholes. I mean, there's a whole list of things that we rush to stay caught up with. Fire territory expands every time that we, and for police as well, every time that we annex. So there's no way the current set of employees can continue to cover everything that needs to be covered. So we should reward our employees, current employees, for their excellent work, because it only is wonderful here because of them and the hard work everybody here puts together, and the employees that aren't represented. But at the same time, we could not afford right now to go out and hire a bunch of new employees. Not because we're not in a good financial position, but Ms. Robertson made me smile last night because she talked about hearing me say, we have to be able to cover recurring costs, and anytime you hire additional employees, you have those recurring costs, and that's where we will have to look at increasing our revenue streams to be able to bring on those new folks to cover the expanded area and hopefully continue to be able to offer the wonderful services that we currently provide with some slight adjustments. We talked about construction before we go out Tuesday night. We still feel strongly about that. We'll be bringing back some info on that. And there'll be some other adjustments that need to be made. Solid waste, for example. Whether we stay with GFL or look for another company, the household waste and the recycling, as the territory expands, the way the pickup currently happens won't be able to continue. So we'll have to look at either adjusting how often things are picked up, maybe look at whether recycling gets picked up every week. We're one of the few places that happens. Most places do not have a recycle picked up every week. So there'll be some adjustments in service that'll have to be made just by virtue of what's affordable. But to answer the question, it is going to take a few.
Do you think the recycling would house would stay the same?
We haven't crunched those numbers, but I do know in a lot of conversation that's happened internally over the last few days is that we've got some work to do to try to see what changes we can make that conceivably be done within the confines of our current contract. Obviously, an amendment there too. Haven't looked at that in a bit, so I'm not sure how much notice would have to be given, et cetera, but we certainly want to work with you all to try to determine ways to maybe make adjustments without totally changing things. Solid waste pickup is, everybody thinks that's important, so any changes, even the construction debris, will be a shock to the system, and we know that. So we want to make adjustments that have the least impact if possible. I do think recycling is one of those areas. I think if we looked at the amount of recycled carts that are put out every week, we would find that, and maybe the gentleman on the other side of the room have a different view, but I think we would find a lot of, and my cart's blue, but the recycled carts either get put out on trash day with trash in it, which is not supposed to be picked up, but sometimes it is, or it's not put out every week. Now, there are some people that it is, but it's filled with cardboard. Cardboard's not supposed to be in there. So there's some adjustments and amendments we can make. We just need to have some collective discussions on what that looks like.
Yes.
Something is not going. We know it's going to be good. That's not a big deal. But would that possibly be a savings? That would be a savings?
I think it could be, or it certainly could be a cost stabilization for a bit. But just know that we're already at a deficit just from a contractual standpoint. The only way to truly know how much it's costing us for our solid waste services is to try to do some type of cost analysis on internal routes as well, to try to really see how much it's costing us and how we might at least recoup some of that service that the town provides. Because right now we don't recoup any of that.
You know, go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, from the revenue streams on the general fund side, everybody talks about taxes, right? Because that's the go-to. But you all see that that is far from the only source of revenue in the general fund. So when people say they pay taxes, and with all due respect, that's critically important. But is that only a portion of the revenue that comes in that covers the cost of the general fund? So, of those services in the general fund, of which sanitation is a big cost. So I only mention that because sometimes I don't know that people understand that though ad valorem tax is critically important, property tax, we couldn't do without it. It's just not the only source of revenue.
I asked a question to some of the neighbors in my area, and I was hoping that most of them was listening to our meeting on Tuesday night with the rate increase that we was considering. And I mentioned to them, I said, well, you did hear I say that I didn't want to raise the rate at all as one vote. And they said that's the right thing to say. They said, but the flip side of it, I'd rather see my rates raised than to see something laying on the street for 2 or 3 weeks or longer and be looking like other small towns that can't afford to provide the service that we provide for the town of Winterville. So that kind of hit home, and it does. I can't see us going back to have a community or a town that can't continue on looking the way it looks today. You know, I mean, from Highway 11 all the way on out to the eastern part of Winterville, north and south the same way.
Well,
I mean,
just know that's
yeah,
not what I'm suggesting. All I'm saying is,
I mean, it's something to think about, but we don't want to come down because if we stop the service, we're going to see an increase of items left on the street until we set some sort of standard, some sort of law, or some sort of way that make them move it, or we'll go ahead on and move it or whatever. So that was the conversation that I was having with my neighbor.
Last night, we were on the railroad
You got me with it.
Oh, last night we were on Gilmore Road, working on the sewer strip. She came out and talked to us, she was out there the whole time. She brought up that she watched these people on her story. And we got talking about it, and she agreed with, I guess, what the neighbor said. She said she would love to see her raising and breathe, and see the stress. And it's good to hear that, and I'm glad you know you're sticking to it too, because I think Terry said on several times, last thing you want to do is increase the stress. This is when our guys are very good at what they do. If someone doesn't put the trash out in time, or GFL happens to this one, they'll go out and get that trash, even though they should. They're going to get their can, they bring it back to the shop, they dump it, they put it in the trash. That's the kind of stuff we want to provide, as long as we can. So, yeah, I mean, it's just glad to know people having this conversation, and we watch these meetings.
Well, didn't even know that happened, so I'm glad to know that, first of all, you had somebody to watch the meeting. That's exciting.
Yes.
And glad to know that they admitted that they watched it. Because sometimes, what we talk about is important to us, but it's not maybe the most riveting to everybody. But again, I'm glad that people are understanding they're paying more for everything else just about. So unfortunately, this is part of the everything else.
Well, it's always good to engage your neighbors.
Yes,
It's always good to engage the citizens of the town of Winterville. And we just don't sit up here and just make decisions. Hopefully we are engaging them. And also for you missed one, the west side of Winterville. You said the east, you said the north, you said the south, but you didn't say the west, Johnny. You didn't say the west. Don't worry about it. I got you. I got you.
I'm sorry.
You do like to live on the west side.
And the west.
Okay. All right. Just to make that clear, but Terry and the staff, on the behalf of the council, we appreciate you all every year when it comes down to budget time. I know it's a tough task, but y'all seem to bring it in, crunch the numbers.
Every time. And I have not always worked with I've always worked with good groups. Not everybody always is willing to, and granted, that's not to mean everybody is smiling and dancing when they leave
Right.
these hard conversations, but they always do what's necessary, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is. We sit here and we make the decisions, but it's the long hours that y'all put in to get these numbers to line up right. So we appreciate it. I know some of your departments, y'all had to cut some things that you really wanted, but y'all understand the need of the town. So again, we appreciate it.
With trash, are you all going to try to talk to them and negotiate of this budget year that we're working on now? Or are we gonna just leave everything like it is now?
I think it would be difficult to try to get a contractual amendment done, approved, and all by July 1st. But what I do think we could potentially do, and I'm saying is not having talked with staff at all, specifically, but maybe look at what would be a mid-year adjustment for us in January, potentially if we could get everything done. Again, I haven't looked at the notifications and would in fact that save anything for us, and how much that would be. But we are committed to trying to see what opportunities we could have. And I do think, I don't know how that would be perceived from the community as a whole, but I think everybody would see that adjusted than the solid waste schedule, because I feel like everybody uses that.
When is the contract up for GSB?
I don't know.
Is
Just for
it
we'll have to just double check.
mid July, or is it end of the year? I mean, I'm just,
Probably don't all that.
automatic.
All that annual renewal on that,
Okay, oh, just for information.
I do, oh, sorry.
just say, I'm not 100% on that, but
If you could kind of let us know that, yeah.
We'll get that information.
Get the information
I
to
do want to also
us.
say that if we eventually, the service providers in that industry are not numerous.
Right,
So we do also recognize that it's not as if we have a ton of providers to choose from, and certainly we've had a long-standing relationship with GFL. I did want to say this, though, for the record. I am aware of a community not too far from us that chose to take their solid waste collection. They were with GFL, had been for a long time back in-house. That's the question we always get. It has been an absolute unequivocal nightmare for the citizens in that town. And that is something that I feel pretty confident you're never going to hear staff recommend, because there's no way that we can do it like the businesses who are in the business of that service. Our folks do an excellent job on our internal routes, but trying to bring that back in-house, I don't think would ever be a good decision. So I just wanted to say that when we're talking about all of the options for solid waste.
As a former garbage collector for town of Winterville, I push to outsource it
Smart man.
because of the employees you hire, long-term
It's
costs.
dangerous,
Their
yes.
health is terrible. You pay out a lot more insurance premiums and their illnesses.
And believe it or not, that classification of a job, refuse collector, is considered one of the most dangerous jobs from a liability standpoint.
What you pick up in here,
That's some bad stuff.
It is.
that's why I said I don't get sick out very often, not every 5-10 years, because what I had to do was throwing that stuff in the truck, especially on Monday morning. I shouldn't say it in front of you, I was 8, but you had to deal with every Monday morning, especially certain times of the year.
I'm not even suggesting that you put it back in.
Oh, no, I
I
just,
grew up in Winterville too, and my
Yes.
dad was a trash man, so
so
I
then
know.
he knows and you know.
I was just thinking about the difference that you were talking about, and how much it costs to get the trash, and basically how much it's costing us. But I'm understanding that you're going to look at that
Yes,
and
ma'am.
talk to them. I can see recycling every tool. I can see that, not trash, but recycling.
And we know that any adjustments that the challenge, people get on in their mind something different. But yes, we would definitely look at that, and I only wanted to be proactive in the statements about bringing it back in-house. Just to get it out there.
So I just have a question, and also want to have a comment. I know that you said that it was scarcely with the agency, but however, have you all been researching to look at the price comparables to like the service?
Again, I know that staff, Anthony and I've had a lot of conversations about other entities that are even willing to serve.
I reached out to several, only got.
Unknown caller.
One other company is doing, most of them are closer to manufacturers, and so each one time there's a little bit but we have reached out and talked, without, normally that's done within the bid process, and
I think Anthony, somebody asked Anthony what we were paying and threw out a number that's quite a bit higher than what we're paying. That kind of scared me a little bit, but it's definitely some research that we want to do because we want to give y'all the proper information and to answer both you ladies' questions. We want to look into it, have some discussions, see what's available, see the time frame with which we could do something potentially like a back on recycling. Continue to come back with some information on special pickup for like construction debris or even large pickups we were referring to Tuesday night to see how we could make some slight changes in our services without really upsetting the apple cart, so to speak.
This Just a general comment about the budget. If I were to vote tonight, I would not vote with the present budget because of the fund balance. If the way the prices are going up, what we get the money in the bank that we have in the bank now, it's going up faster than, the costs are going up faster. It's multiplied. Just look at these two examples. Farmville Fire Department's costing $8 million. We spent $1 million. Okay, the library cost them $5 million, cost us $750,000. So it's better to build now and have to do it later on. So think about that. We need to, you're not getting any money, think for your money in the bank. The state has a reason to only charge 8%. It said 8% is all you have to have. I can see 15%. I can't see 54%.
We have family dollar policy.
I know, but still, we've doubled that now, so we got money to spend. I mean, we could talk about another time, and we can always take that fund balance. It, you should decide, but I could not presently.
Well, we've got over 600,000 out of fund balance
Yeah.
in this budget right
Right.
now.
Well, just take 650, and you wouldn't have to add to it. You just trade money around. Is all you're doing there.
Well, I mean, we had a long discussion, if you'll recall, years ago about the electric fund should be paying us more money than it was paying us through the contribution.
It was 300,000.
That's where the increase in that contribution came.
Yeah, well, Greenwood has it in their bylaws to give the $6.5 billion back to City of Greenwood. We don't have that.
Well, there are two entities,
Right.
obviously Greenville owns GC,
But to think about things about it. Now, I mentioned about 8 items. Parking lot across the street, steps at the library need to be done. The have some decorative crosswalks, new downtown lights, paved behind the park, the fence area, facilities for our employees, Public Works. Their facilities to be improved. Anyway, just food for thought, different opinions.
We did take those items that you mentioned in an earlier meeting, and some of those things are addressed in the current budget. We don't have specifics yet in terms of the facilities for Public Works, but that is being talked about. We will be back in touch. You all know that there, if I'm not mistaken, there were over 40-some lights replaced in the downtown area with LEDs. I may be wrong. Anyway, to offer wider, that doesn't include any additional lights. We're currently trying to look at that plan along with the market plan. So yes, this doesn't encompass everything, but it certainly gets us there. And I don't know that we had enough information to take any additional money out of fund balance for the budget. That doesn't mean we won't be back once we have
Right.
specifics in place. Again, though,
Right.
we don't want to depend on fund balance every year.
Right.
Got 2 questions. One is about the recreation. Upgrade for the Winterville Park and for Hillcrest. What are the plans?
When you say upgrade, I want
Do we have any upgrade?
Upgrades as to what, sir?
Are we building anything, or we need to purchase anything large, or are we going to add on anything?
So, of course, Winterville Recreation Park, there's not really any more room to grow. Unless you repurpose the existing facilities. Hillcrest Park, there is some room for change, or additions, modifications. Some of those have been previously discussed in different way, shape, form, or fashion with the cost we already had in this year's fiscal budget. Nothing of capital project value was included. Not to say that there aren't some things here and there. We felt that most of that would be better served to be addressed in the new comprehensive park recreation plan.
Okay.
What they talked about Tuesday.
All right. And my last is, I have one more. On Power Bill, I know we talked about this several years ago about sidewalks on Mill Street. And
we no longer have that kind of fund balance in Power Bill. to then moving forward with our annual allocation.
And that's one thing, currently about, it, we don't put down the, street program. Well, the 20 on our list, that's good. We have our own money, we do this on the street. And as we move forward, that's something we've got to address. In order to be able to keep the standard, my keep standard. We've got to be able to figure out, plans and figure placement program. Building that, but it's going to take some.
And DOT still refused to even look at, to assist us on that, because that is a
It
DOT.
is, and I get this kind of research, and there we do this on the other side, but it has sidewalk up there, the numbers on the right, and I haven't had a chance to do that. So we gotta look at those and see where those numbers, their numbers can, small project.
I don't think it was the full length, and I'm doing this off memory, so help me if y'all know differently, but, and I don't think the priority was high enough to happen anytime soon.
Really?
Compared to the other projects in particular.
Those are very competitive.
Does the municipality has an impact on if they get enough force or phone calls from,
The rating system, and the mayor serves on the technical advisory committee, that's TAC,
Yeah.
that stands for. And then Anthony and Stephen, I think, has been attending the technical
And Tony's
TCC.
the alternate. Yeah.
Yes, and Mr. Moore is the backup staff level committee for TCC for the MPO. I know there's all these acronyms.
It's hard to even get a quorum. We don't Zoom last time.
But the rating
That's why I
really
came on-
doesn't have anything to do
You out?
with phone calls. It has to
It's hard to
do
decide already. We have votes.
with accidents and numbers of cars that are, travel any certain area. There's a whole big process in how the projects are rated.
I just hope and pray that we don't wait until do something after the fact, that somebody.
I hope not, and
That street needs it more than the other street.
It needs it, and it's gonna get even worse. As time, with the development we got going on, development they got going on down in Aden. I mean, I know they do have the bypass, but yet and still, once they come off the bypass, it's not that
Well, we
great.
made a mistake years ago. We took a vote. I was wrong now. They'd asked us to do a 25. The vote was 3-2. I went to leave it at 35. I wish now I'd gone with the 25 downtown. They would stuck at 35. They would listen to us now. I don't know. They would take a vote tonight and say, we'd like to ask them to reduce the speed limit on Middle Street to 25. Anybody else to second the motion? To ask DOT to reduce it from 35 to 25, Middle Street?
So you're making it in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Ask let DOT to reduce the speed limit on Mill Street from 35 to 25, especially during the downtown area. It started in front of First Citizens Bank at that time, so the sign was located.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. We have a motion made by Councilman Tony Moore to draft a letter to DOT to reduce the speed limit from 35 to 25?
35 to 25.
35 to 25, second by Councilman Johnny Moore. Any discussion?
Probably should be the department to the business going out of town. That 25. Like if you walk over to the convenience store. That's the area.
Okay, any more discussions? Anybody?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Warren, I had some previous conversation about Amos. There is a resolution process that the DOT has, and so I plan on putting that on the actually putting the resolution.
Right.
So I want to know,
Yeah,
Mr. Clerk might be able to clarify, I think,
we asked for 25, they wouldn't give us for 30. But no, they get, Boyd Street, they made a mistake. It was supposed to be 25 the entire time, they went to 35, now they went to correct the mistake.
But they were open, and we discussed a little bit.
After this is finished, I'll make the motion afterwards.
Okay, so we had the motion on the floor. Call for the vote. All in favor, vote by saying aye. All opposed? Motion. Check. No. Let's go again. By show of hands, all in favor, raise their right hand. We got 4 right hands raised. All against? We got 1 against. Motion carried, 4-1.
All in
And I
favor?
voted against it because right now we're known as Tippy City. If you go our speed to 25 out there, our police department will be issuing more tickets, after people get used to it. I know that at first you probably give warnings or whatever, but there are people that don't come through our town right now because it says Tippy City and it's 35. So I just can't do that. For our citizens as well as those that are traveling the road.
But if they can't drive safely, life is important. Every single child, adult is important. Slow down, we'll all live longer.
Yeah. And also put on some sidewalks out there.
Right, I agree.
Need 'em.
I'd like
I
to
like
make,
to see the sidewalk.
The sidewalk needs to be there.
yeah,
All right, let's come into order, people. Let's come into order.
I'd like to make a
I'm ready to
motion.
vote.
We asked DOT to reduce the speed limit on Ain Street. It's presently 30 miles per hour to 25. This house is too close.
So you're saying you're making another motion to ask DOT to reduce the speed limit on Ain Street to 25 miles an hour?
Yes, we asked before that, and they wouldn't do it.
Is that just from Church Street?
Like behind the school, basically. All the way out, because those houses are right on the road.
All the way out to Lori Ellis?
To Laura.
Yes,
Church to Lori Ellis, okay. So that's what your motion is, right?
I mean, you.
Cooper
I don't know where I am.
Cooper to Lori Ellis, correct?
yes, correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Motion made by Councilman Tony Moore to reduce the speed limit from 20 down to 25 from Cooper to Lori Ellis. Second by Councilman Johnny Moore. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
would you consider school life?
Those houses are very close. Unless you lose a loved one.
I mean,
The
I'm
traffic,
hearing-
that affects you. There was Tuesday was my son's birthday. The death affected me big time Tuesday. I didn't sleep all that night. Had no idea it affected me that much. It's been a close for a year. But, life is important, and the death rate is going up because people are traveling too fast. And too big a hurry. I have to travel that road back and forth to my property every day. And I know 35 is too fast. I know 30 is too fast. It's too close. One child would devastate any of you.
I will say it is a little dicey along there when there are games going on.
I'm thinking about during the time, well, I guess it would be as far as ball
At night, I've had, unfortunately, I don't drive 35 down through there, but I go home that way a lot, and there've been kids that dart out between the cars that park on the sides of the road. I mean,
The school was built with no parking. No
yes.
parking.
All right. Well, that hopefully a little bit will be eliminated once they get the
It's gonna
parking.
be worse.
Yeah. But we have a vote, call for the vote. All in favor, vote by raising their right hand, please. Right hand. We got 4 yeses. All against, raise their right hand. We got 1 against. Motion carried.
Is it okay with council if we put both requests in the same way?
Yes.
Yes.
making sure.
I have been over there in school, you know, when trying to take in school.
Definitely school.
Everything.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
even with sidewalks, you gotta realize for, you know, middle school children, especially those boys. Yeah.
And there's a number of crosswalks that have not been
They're gonna try.
restriped.
They'll try, they'll do it.
Please.
Push the limits.
When they repaved, they forgot to come back and redo the stripe of the roads.
Well, they,
We had a discussion about that already, right?
yes, they didn't put back what was there.
What was
so
there, right.
It's like part of what is there. And I think we're trying to determine if they're coming back.
Put some back, but
Slashes.
Main and Mill. How about that one over today? You didn't put any crosswalks back over there again.
Yeah, so we've got to figure out what's going
And
on.
if you got a sidewalk going from one school to the other, so you don't have one across, you know, along Church Street, or along Cook Street, or Main Street. It's amazing, I mean, it's not amazing, we have a lot more kids walking to
We
school
have a ton of walking to school.
than we didn't have 5 years ago. I've been living there 12 years now.
There's a ton of
There's a
walking.
number of, you know, kids walking back and forth, very active. I'm proud of our schools. We've got a good town. I don't want anybody to doubt.
More sidewalks.
plan, get our funding right.
That could help with crosswalks by the school and all that. I think what I've read in some of that safer grant,
Yeah.
right? Is that correct?
It doesn't cover anything, but
It's the lane.
Just, okay.
Planning. Make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion? Do I have a second? To adjourn? Do I have a? Okay.
I've been saying for years, I was waiting. I was waiting.
Motion was made by Tony Moore, second by Paul Rice. And the council was asleep. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, folks.
I did not sleep at all Tuesday night.
Monday, June
I did not
5th,
sleep at all Tuesday night.
7
I
o'clock.
can imagine, I've been there, brother.
I had flashes. I had 3 Tuesday night.
I've been there, man.
Flashes because of the vacation. Shots of vacation.
Now,